is NBC Palm Springs.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Sanchez.
And I'm Gene Olamont. Topping our news this evening. Joe Biden and his new running mate Kamala Harris appear together for the first time as partners on the Democratic ticket. Senator Harris is the first black woman on a major party ticket, but this event, unlike most others in the modern political era, which typically would have had a running mate roll out entailing a large rally and a huge crowd, but the COVID pandemic forced the pair into a socially distanced space.
Kamala knows how to govern. She knows how to make the hard calls. She's ready to do this job on day one.
I devoted my life to making real the words carved in the United States Supreme Court, equal justice under law.
Supporters say Biden's choice injected enthusiasm into the campaign and plenty of money. Within 4 hours of the announcement, they had raked in $10 million. Within 24 hours, that number was $26 million.
President Trump accuses Harris of being, quote, nasty and disrespectful to Biden while they were running against each other during the presidential primaries. The president says, quote, she's the kind of opponent everyone dreams of. However, Trump campaign advisors tell CNN Harris was the one candidate they hope Biden would not pick, preferring former National Security Advisor Susan Rice or Congresswoman Karen Bass.
California sees more than 11,000 new COVID-19 cases, but more than half of those are a result of that backlog data reporting error that we were telling you about last week. But 2-week hospitalization rates are down about 19%. That's certainly good news. And the rate of ICU patients also going down. Governor Newsom says these are all indicators that we may be turning the corner in this pandemic.
We're going to take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers from the county. 607 new cases were reported in Riverside County, 119 of those from our valley. There were 29 new deaths reported across the county, and 10 of those were from the valley. We're still seeing the effects of that state technical glitch in our case numbers. Yesterday, we saw over 1,300 new cases. Today, just 600. So that should be resolved by the end of the week.
The Palm Desert Aquatic Center is reopening next week for lap swimming only. Limited hours begin next week on Thursday, and advanced lane registration can be made online. The Aquatic Center says they'll be following state and county health guidelines. They have sanitation measures in place and conduct regular disinfection of the facility. Masks are required when you're not actually in the water, and the locker rooms will remain closed.
The Trump administration signs a $1.5 billion deal with Moderna. The company is already producing a vaccine before proof it works. In clinical trials, half the people are receiving the vaccine. The other half are getting a placebo. The government is pushing for a vaccine, calling it Operation Warp Speed. If all goes well, a vaccine could possibly be available by early next year.
The Association of American Medical Colleges has released new guidance on the do's and don'ts for face masks. That list on your screen is part of the guidance. The group says the guidelines are meant to create a unified approach while misinformation about masks is being spread. The information coming from the CDC and other public health experts, as well as state and local governments.
A new study shows physical distancing slows the growth of COVID-19 in the U.S. Researchers looked at changes in cases and deaths in states that implemented physical distancing measures. They saw the average daily case growth declined roughly 4 days after statewide measures went into place, only 4 days. Now, according to the model, the policies led to roughly 1,600 fewer cases after the first week, and about 621,000 fewer cases by week 3.
Well, a new proposal is on the table in Palm Springs to expand restaurant dining into the streets of downtown Palm Springs, Palm Canyon Drive, and Arenas Road. Daytona Everett joins us live on Arenas, where businesses are on standby for the decision to expand out into the streets. Daytona.
Gino, Mayor Kors told me today that a decision could come as early as next Thursday at their city council meeting. This would be a big move for restaurants like Chill Bar right behind me. They've had to make some big adjustments just to stay alive during this time. This could be the future for downtown Palm Springs. You're looking at Mill Street in Grass Valley. It's a little vacation town in Northern California.
We're calling it Mill Around Downtown.
About 30 days ago, they expanded their businesses into the streets, shutting off traffic.
but it's been feeling really good and everyone is feeling just a little bit safer.
The same could happen to portions or all of Palm Canyon and Arenas. Here on Arenas Road, they've sectioned off for Pride, they've sectioned off for Halloween. But we wanted to know from businesses, could this be done semi-permanently?
We don't see a lot of negatives.
Chill Bar has already pivoted to make their business stay alive during the pandemic. They now sell food and added more outdoor seating in their parking lot. Owner Rob Giesica says he'll take any help he can get.
Being the only bar or restaurant that's on Arenas open, it feels a little bit lonely.
Over at El Patron, out-of-town customers say Palm Canyon could also benefit from expanding into the streets, even though tables can already be seen on some sidewalks and parking lots.
Sure, because it looks really closed down right now and people are looking for something that's open.
If they were to shut down part of the street, release a couple lanes out there and put tables out there, I think it'd be great.
With more safety and logistical details to iron out, places like Chill Bar will continue operating at half capacity until they get the go-ahead. Now, if this proposal does go through, Corps says they're going to want to move as quickly as possible because the weather's going to cool off, and that means more people in the desert, so they want to have a plan in place. So that could end up being September. Reporting live from Palm Springs, I'm Daytona Everett.
Yeah, Daytona, quick question for you. Yeah, it's going to cool off a little bit in September, but it's still going to be really warm through November. Is there any concerns by the restaurant owners about the heat, maybe keeping people away anyways?
Yeah, absolutely. The heat is definitely a factor. But even when I was walking down Palm Canyon today, there was people dining outdoors, especially people from out of town, who said they like the heat and they didn't really mind it. And there's enough shade out there. But yeah, they're definitely bringing in misters, bringing in some of those umbrellas and trying to keep an eye on that so everyone stays as cool as they can in the desert.
All right, Daytona Everett live for us in Palm Springs today. Thank you. President Trump meets with educators and parents at the White House to talk about reopening schools. A panel of teachers, principals, and parents participated in the discussion. The president has been a strong supporter of reopening the schools immediately.
Half of U.S. elementary and high school students will study virtually only this fall. School data collected by Burbio shows 52% of students will be online and just 25% will attend class in person. The other students will have some form of hybrid schooling.
A group of students from Northern California High School are facing criticism for gathering for an annual tradition without social distancing or masks. They gathered for Senior Sunrise. Many local schools have discouraged similar events, while others have planned drive-in event versions of them where students stay in their cars.
During this pandemic, many have asked, what can we do to help? Well, two local teenagers asked themselves the same question and then took action. They raised thousands of dollars to protect healthcare workers. Our Kitty Alvarado was there to see their good deeds in person.
Like many teenagers, 17-year-old Pia and 19-year-old Summer Man have been stuck at home during this pandemic.
We couldn't leave the house, and it was hard to think of ways that we could give back and try to make a difference.
Because their parents are doctors, they know COVID-19 is a threat to them and all healthcare workers on the front lines.
Before this whole coronavirus crisis, I never saw it in the way that they were going to work and they were risking their lives. I can't imagine how difficult this must be for them.
They also know that personal protective equipment can make the difference between them getting sick and staying safe. The sisters took action to raise money for PPE.
We started the GoFundMe. We all spread it through our social medias. The goal was $1,000 initially. Yeah. I was happy to get even $100 or $500. Really anything.
They did a lot better than that. 4 weeks later, here they are at Eisenhower Health, the not-for-profit hospital in Rancho Mirage, where their parents work, donating a check for $5,000.
Many people donated whatever they could. That really meant so much. So, yeah, this is really from everyone to you guys.
Thank you so much. You can't know how much this means to us. It is an absolute godsend. There are some months when we have gone through our normal allotment of PPE 4 or 5 days into the month.
Two nurses came down to show their gratitude.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
I just hope that this can aid them and protect them and give them some kind of peace of mind that their community is still with them.
Kitty Alvarado, NBC Palm Springs.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
We're going to send things over now to Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. He has a look at our forecast standing in the Weather Center. Mike.
Hi, Sarah. I was just doing some quick reading on our two storms that we're tracking right now. One in the Pacific, one in the Atlantic. TD11 tropical storm not expected to strengthen at all, but is making a very close pass to Puerto Rico and some of the barrier islands out there. This is one we call a surfer's delight. It will move into the Atlantic and then turn very abruptly, sending some swell into Florida and along the Carolinas there while taking the winds offshore. Elita, as we were expecting, has now weakened to a tropical storm in the eastern Pacific, will continue to just downgrade as it moves into cooler water and encounters some wind shear. But look what's going to happen to the remnants. In fact, you may already notice that there is some cloud cover out there today. Counterclockwise flow is bringing some monsoonal moisture, especially out towards Arizona and New Mexico, where we're tracking some active storms right now. What this does is increases humidity. It's going to take it so those overnight temperatures are going to warm into the upper 80s. We'll talk about that in a moment. As you know what, let me show you the showers right now before we push the button. You can see places like Tucson and out towards Albuquerque have some moderate storms going right now, but that's not the big story. The big story is what happens when we push the button here. An excessive heat warning in place for virtually all of Southern California, for pretty much the entire Southwest. What makes this one different is this is a long duration heat wave that includes folks even along the immediate coast. Los Angeles has got a heat advisory in place. Temperatures will get into the mid to upper 90s there, and this is going to last for about 5 or 6 days. So the only relief is along the immediate coastline or above 5,000 feet. We'll talk about that more in the full forecast. In the meantime, today's a garden variety August day, 113 out there, light breeze coming in from the southeast, and it's dry, about 9% humidity. But here comes the heat. Your Comfort Air 3-day forecast showing us 114 on Thursday, 117s on Friday and Saturday, and we could get into record territory this weekend. Details in your full forecast minutes away.
Now a quick update on the Apple fire. It's now 30% contained after burning more than 33,000 acres. Crews are being sent home and 24-hour shifts have stopped. There are no evacuation warnings in effect anymore. Full containment is expected Monday.
A group of renters is facing rising rent in Desert Hot Springs. They feel their landlord's actions are greedy, but the property manager tells us that the increase is within their rights. Olivia Sandusky joins us now for tonight's You Ask, We Investigate report. Olivia.
Gino, because that rent increase is less than 5%, it's technically legal here in the state of California, but the renters do tell me they feel like this cost is heartless because we are in the middle of a pandemic.
Watch this, these things.
For the last year, Jim Farley has rented his property in Desert Hot Springs, but he says a recent rent increase is forcing him to move out.
I'd barely squeak by paying what I was agreed to pay. Now I can't do it at all.
The 87-year-old veteran qualified for the Section 8 program, but says his new property owner will not accept Section 8 tenants. An action a recent court case says is legal, as it clarified Section 8 is not income and is ultimately not discrimination.
So I have to live on a very small Social Security.
Jim and the other renters were also notified that besides a slight rent increase, they would be facing higher utility charges. Now his neighbor Jody will pay an additional $500 a month, increasing her total by 37%.
There's just no way that's going to happen. COVID's going on. My husband's already missed 5 weeks of work because of it, and you know, it's impossible to just up and move.
Utopia Management says the increase is to help maintain costs of their property and complies with California's housing laws.
And we do everything by law, and we notify everybody. We're not, as the management company, trying to make anybody homeless or whatever their issues are with their rent or with paying the bills. We're just enforcing what the owner is asking of us.
The property manager says she's willing to work with the tenants, but the renters say they plan to leave.
It's very unfortunate because it seems as if none of them have a heart.
And an eviction moratorium is still in place. Utopia says residents won't be kicked out, but Jody tells me she'll be helping Jim find a new place to rent within the next few weeks. Olivia Sandusky, NBC Palm Springs.
All right, thank you, Olivia. And remember, if you have a story or problem you'd like us to look into, email us at news@NBCPalmSprings.com. You ask, we investigate. Coming up next, America's confidence in the police has hit an all-time low, according to a new study. We'll take a look at those numbers coming up.
Plus, a new report says there's proof behind TikTok's illegal data collecting practices. We'll explain coming up.
When we welcome our viewers on the West Coast tonight, the new Biden-Harris ticket making their first joint appearance as President Trump sharpens his attacks on Harris. Also, as the school year starts, a look at those most vulnerable of being left behind by remote learning on Nightly News.
Confidence in law enforcement has dropped to its lowest level in nearly 30 years. According to a new Gallup poll, about 48% of Americans say they have high confidence in the police. That's down from 53% just last year.
The shattered city of Beirut is struggling to recover from last week's catastrophic explosion. The government resigns following outrage and protests. The country itself is facing a medical crisis and food insecurities. NBC's Rebecca Collard has the latest.
It's now been more than a week since this deadly blast in Beirut. We've seen so much mourning, sadness, and anger. But I want to give you an idea about what this country is facing as it moves forward. More than half the medical facilities were destroyed in Beirut, and that's why the country is registering some of its highest numbers of new infections of the coronavirus since the beginning of the pandemic. And of course, there are thousands of people that have been injured in this blast that need medical attention.
This blast gave a final blow to our efforts. So it's a disaster.
At the same time, the international community and the local government are raising concerns about Lebanon's food security. Most of Lebanon's food is imported, and they've just lost the country's main port.
So we're bringing in mobile cranes as well as mobile warehousing, forklifts, you name it, everything necessary to get it operational again.
And then they have to think about reconstructing their capital. The Lebanese government says that could take as much as $15 billion. And while they face all this devastation and insecurity, there are still so many questions about what happened last week here in Beirut. Rebecca Collard for NBC News.
All right, we'll be right back after the break. But first, let's check in with Mike, a little sneak peek on the weather.
Gino, I got something interesting to show you. A lot less smoke out there from the apple fire, but now starting to see something new out there. Clouds that we have not seen so far this summer. Looks like the monsoonal flow is about to make a return to Southern California. I got the details when we come back. Welcome back. Here's an interesting live look courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino Cam and Rancho Mirage pointed towards San Jacinto right now. We've got some moisture hovering around the top of that mountain, around 10,000 feet there. A couple of lenticulars out there as well. Beautiful. If there's one silver lining to monsoon season, it makes for some fantastic sunsets. You can see some of that moisture hanging out around the base of the Santa Rosas there as well, down towards the Cleveland National Forest. That's going to be a constant over the next few days. Monsoon season is about to make a return. So we were taking a look at Alita earlier. Over the next 24 hours, again, this is just going to continue to get sheared apart and move into much cooler water. It will not continue as a tropical system at all. But what it is doing is opening the door for some of that moisture to make its way up into Arizona and New Mexico. We saw some active storms there earlier. We will continue to be seeing more of that. But as we go over the next couple of days, we'll see more cloud cover here as well. Mid and upper level cloud cover. You'll really notice it on Thursday, but what you'll really notice is it's about to become muggy starting tomorrow, right as temperatures are heating. Yay! We go into the weekend, you're going to be seeing more of that cloud cover and the potential for some afternoon storms Sunday and possibly into Monday as well. Taking a look at dew points and relative humidity, this is the time of year where it gets a little cumbersome. We're going to be riding in the low to mid 50s as we go into the weekend here. That's going to drive humidity up to about 15%. So yeah, air conditioning. Really great invention. Surface weather analysis showing us on Thursday, you'll see some of those scattered storms similar to what we saw today moving up into Arizona and a little closer to California. There'll be some showers offshore as well. We'll get some light onshore flow in the afternoon, and then Friday you're going to really feel it. It's going to get humid here. We'll see some light sprinkles along the coast there and the possibilities of some showers down towards the eastern end of Riverside County and down towards I forget what that county's called. Never mind. 113 was our high today. 107 is our 30-year average. 120 is our record for today's date. We managed to get ourselves into the upper 70s overnight. 78 Imperial County. That's the name of that county. 58 is our record for overnights. Current temperatures right now: 108 in Desert Hot Springs, 109 in Coachella, 96 is the current out in Yucca Valley. Cool 81 in Big Bear, 94 in Idlewild. We'll be seeing more of that as we go into the weekend. Easterly flow so far today. That will make that switch around to the northwest a little later this evening, get up to about 15 to 20 miles an hour, 25 in our more wind-prone spots, and stays warm tonight. We're going to be 96 at midnight. That sets us up for a very warm start tomorrow as well. 86 is where we start. 114 is where we'll get to at 4 p.m. And look at those dew points well above 50 degrees. Look for 114 in Palm Springs, 116 in Indio, 102 in Joshua Tree, 79 in Big Bear, and 104 in Cabazon. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows that excessive heat warning kicking in on Friday for the Coachella Valley and virtually everybody around us. Stays in place until Sunday, which could be a record breaker. We're going to hit 120, and then we'll back off slightly next week. Looks like we got 7 days of some very August weather ahead.
A new report finds TikTok on Android collected data from users for more than a year using a loophole that's already banned by Google. The Wall Street Journal finds the data in question is most commonly used for advertisers. TikTok ended the practice last year. Its parent company is under pressure by the White House over data collecting concerns. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Thank you for joining us here at 5 o'clock. We'll be back at 6 after NBC Nightly News. In the meantime, hover your little smartphone camera over this QR code, I believe it's called, and it'll send you to all of our social media sites and NBCPalmSprings.com. We'll see you back here at 6.